Hey, this is Jim with NDI November with another System Integrator Spotlight. Today I'm being joined by Dan with Keycode Media. Hey, Dan.
Hey, Jim, how are you today?
I'm doing great, man. Can you do me a favor and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about Keycode Media and what you guys do?
For sure. So I'm Daniel Dauphin. I'm a senior solutions architect with Keycode on the live broadcast side, which means I deal with everything from glass to glass. So everything in front of it, lighting, sound, switcher, and then all the way into post and all the way to deliverables in a live environment, so studios and everything like that. And Keycode, we're a full systems integrator. We'll sell lighting, sound, cameras, switcher, any post server that you can think of. And we're also leaders of technology and keeping up with it, including NDI, SMPTE 2110, and all those new standards.
And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to invite you onto the show today. Obviously, it's NDI November. We're going to talk about a lot of these NDI workflows. But before we do, let's roll this little video package that shows you some of the cool stuff that Keycode Media is doing.
Josh Rebholz and said, hey, I want to do a streaming event. And there's only one guy that I reached out to. It was Mike Cavanaugh.
Thanks also, by the way, to Keycode Media.
So up in the control room, we had a TriCaster with RTS comms, providing communications between us in the control room, the mezzanine, and also on the field.
I was put in touch with Mike Cavanaugh at Keycode, and I told him what it was that we were looking to achieve and how short-staffed that we would be. And Keycode said that they were interested in helping us in whatever way that they could. So they ended up providing us the latest new tech TriCaster, the TC1, and the manpower to be able to support it.
So we decided to set up our control room in a location near our assembly yard, and just because we wanted it to feel like the best place it could be and that it would make sense for the project.
So Dan, we saw in those videos that you guys are doing a lot with the NewTek TriCasters, and NewTek obviously is the founder of NDI. So I'm sure through a lot of these productions and needs that you're running into, you're starting to see some of these trend into an NDI world, aren't you?
I can't go at least 1 week without some new project coming along that doesn't involve NDI in some capacity.
What are some of the more interesting applications that you've seen pop up over these couple of weeks?
So over the last couple of weeks, over the last couple of projects, as we come on the backside of COVID, companies are still starting to realize that remote production is here and it's here to stay. Just because we're coming out of a pandemic doesn't mean that they can't work remotely. So we're seeing things like NDI Bridge, which just came online with new tech. That's intriguing a lot more people, especially since like people like me. Yep. I moved out from California to Texas not too long ago, mostly so that I could prosper with my family. But I do a lot of new tech NDI demos. Our TC2 is located in Burbank while I'm in Texas controlling it. And so this is getting a lot of shows and their gears turning on. My TD doesn't necessarily have to be in the same building, in the same state, and we can still have a cohesive production. And then you also have people like QuickLink, who also created their own, switcher and hybrid environment. But I do sell a lot of their Go boxes, which essentially I can send to a client, they can send to their talent, and then they can remote control everything and bring it into their environment via NDI.
NDI is extending beyond the local area network and the local production network, but now we are expanding into this remote production world where I'm sure you guys, I know Keycode is located all over the US, I'm sure you guys are running into it where you're setting up one arm of the production in Burbank and someone else has to set something up in Texas. And your teams are working more and more closely to make sure that this infrastructure is all in place.
That is correct. We are definitely seeing that a lot more, especially these days, where even within city governments, schools are wanting to connect with one another, especially as they do their broadcasts and they bring in these remote guests. And then just like as we saw with like UCLA, we were using LiveView. Granted, we were more local than we were, but we are also bringing in sources via NDI while we're on the same building. But we had talked about, oh, it'd be really cool if we could interview, you know, X talent who's in Philadelphia and bring them in. And we're finding more and more use cases across the WAN for NDI to come in with, you know, full bandwidth, full clarity, full audio, and no, it's really awesome.
Having the capability and the flexibility to combine all of this technology into an overall production, whether it is local or more remote, is why working with an integrator like Keycode Media becomes important in some of these installations. So Dan, what are some of the challenges that your customers have run into that you're able to offer your experience and advice to help overcome?
So definitely the first one off the bat is network bandwidth. Whether that is from your ISP or just locally. A lot of people, you know, we do now a bandwidth calculation load based on how many NDI sources are we moving and how many are we moving across, say, from A to B, and then from A to C and A to D. You know, you'll have your camera inputs, you'll have your switcher outputs, and then you'll have to your post, like when we work with like an SNS system or an NRSD that takes NDI natively into a post environment.
Sure.
And we have to calculate all of that bandwidth load. And so now what used to be, oh, can I get away with a 1 gig switch? No, you'll have to at least start with a 10 gig, and that's
Right.
to start.
And I think that's one of the interesting things about NDI too, is the system that you're speccing out today might grow and expand very quickly because of how capable and how flexible these tools are.
Oh yeah, we're currently working with a I can't say their name, but we are working with a college right now.
Okay.
And we blew their mind with NDI and its capabilities, and now they're like, wait a second, so I can sit here in my control room and have all my cameras come from this building, that building, and this building. I'm like, yeah. And so we started engaging with their IT guys immediately and said, are you going to be okay with this? And how are we going to go, especially since college campuses, governments, and even high schools, they usually have strict IT protocols in place.
Sure.
I mean, for good reason.
Yep. Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think, you know, that's one of the things that we see in the education market too, is how quickly a production system can build from a classroom or a multimedia lab to an auditorium, to a stadium, to multiple campuses, and then everything else in between. And as you start seeing this snowball turn into an avalanche, the experience becomes even more necessary for someone who could raise their hand and say, hey, I've been here, I've done this, I've seen this before, and we can help navigate that path. Get what you need spec'd out today, but also create a system that can grow as you start getting excited about this technology. What are some of the considerations that you tell your customers to put emphasis on when they are trying to plan for today and well into the future?
So yeah, I usually try and do a 5-year expansion model, just because technology is just moving so fast. You know, today it's 4K, tomorrow it's 12K.
Right.
Let's just say. But for NDI implementations, I always go with, what is the biggest switch that I can put in there? Is it a 10 gig backbone? Can I put a 100 gig backbone in there now? So therefore you have that expansion and that availability to you, especially as we, you know, do some of these hybrid models where it's not all necessarily NDI. Some of it can be SDI, but SDI has its limitations. But as we find video routers and all this switchers, you now have the Panasonic Kairos, and you have the NewTek TC2, and that are these kind of hybrid type of systems that you need that network infrastructure, and bandwidth is the biggest proponent of that. Whether you want to do 1080 now and then 4K later. Yes.
What are some of the top NDI tools that your customers are using? I mean, you
You
already
know,
spoke about NDI Bridge being the latest guy on the block, right? NDI Bridge is really going to open up the world of remote workflows.
Yes.
But one of the things that you alluded to is you also talked about post-production and setting up some of your clients for the post-production world. How does NDI play into the preparation of post-production?
So right now, I know that there's like an Avid plugin for NDI. We've had a couple of people utilize that. Even with the Adobe Premiere NDI plugin, you know, going a little bit away from the post, but at least you have all these tools that you can use. And then NDI Studio Monitor.
Sure.
Just like every editor has a QC monitor somewhere, not necessarily just like the $200 monitor that you can find at Best Buy. You know, you want something of, well, how's this going to look on the client side or on the end user side? I use Test Pattern a whole lot because that gives me a great base that while I'm talking to either my guys back in Burbank or a client anywhere else, and I know I have a baseline, hey, here's what your color spectrum is going to look like. Here's what sound's going to, you know, sound like coming over this system. NewTek has their bridge and BirdDog has in the cloud.
Yes.
And you can do all of this remote, secure, you know, just kind of like SRT, but you can take it up a notch and know that you're, you know, I love the matrix of BirdDog in the cloud and just, I need this to go here, I need that to go there. And now I can start to utilize all these, you know, awesome tools, even from NewTek that come about.
And I think that's one of the things that we like too, is that NDI being open source and the fact that the technology is available for people to use, whatever application you have or whatever you're looking for, there's a really good chance that there already is an NDI tool developed to give you that capability. You referred to the BirdDog Cloud, and I remember first seeing the first demo of that and just being completely blown away on the power and capability that it lets you log into from anywhere. So I'm sure you're expecting to see that being implemented a lot more in the near future, right?
For sure. And like even with so there's like a 9-minute video out there on the internet, and I look a whole lot different because I had a whole lot more hair up here and here, of when like the Live Call Connect feature came out for the TC2.
Yep.
And at the time, Microsoft had just implemented NDI for broadcast within even Teams. And now we're seeing like Zoom, and you need the Zoom room capability in order to have that NDI capability. But you see these more gallery-centric meeting platforms starting to utilize NDI so that they can have better broadcasts that are brought in. Sure. We have another client that's in Los Angeles, a huge financial firm, and they do a lot of these types of meetings, not necessarily all on Microsoft Teams or even on Zoom. And so that NDI capability of bringing it in and out so that they can have a better production for just their meetings is what we're starting to see a lot of.
Absolutely, and it's actually a motto that has popped up over and over again throughout these shows. If 2020 was the year that we had to do the production, 21 and 22, we have to do it better. And we're seeing a lot of people really take that advice to heart and reach out and say, what do I need to do next? And this is why calling a company like Keycode Media could be extremely beneficial. So Dan, before I let you go, tell me again, who are we talking to today? Who are the customers that can really benefit from reaching out to Keycode and working with you guys to help get this conversation started?
We're Keycode Media. We're a full systems integrator, whether that is a high school just wanting to start out their broadcast, a house of worship that's wanting to either enhance or build upon whatever they have right now, all the way to broadcast centers like Cowboy Stadium. We have the full spectrum, post houses, all the way down to the smallest, budget that you can think of to the largest budget. We're able to provide insight and how to knowledge and train you on how to use it, when to use it, and here's the best tools that we've come across that we can tell you about.
Do you work with real football teams like the New York Giants also?
I don't know.
Thank you so much for joining us today. The information is right here up on the screen. If you're interested in getting into this remote production workflow or even a local production workflow for everywhere from the school to a house of worship, government agencies, sports broadcasting, give Keycode Media a call. They have the experience in this field and can definitely help you out. Dan, thanks again for joining us.
Thanks, Jim. Appreciate it.